Alright, here we are with Music Notation Basics, Topic 9, Harmonic Movement. At this point, you've gotten a brief overview of what different chord types are. Major, major 7, minor, minor 7, some more complicated ones like major 9, minor 9, dominant sevenths, and then really more obscure ones like augmented and diminished. So it's time to combine that with now your knowledge of modes and actually look at some pieces that are compositions with harmonic movement. We're going to look at two today. The first one is The Water is Wide, and the second one is Begin the Beguine. First of all, with The Water is Wide, hopefully at this point you've heard versions of this. If you haven't, make sure you take a minute and go listen to versions of The Water is Wide. I want to show you how these pages are laid out. First of all, the tune, The Water is Wide, is all down here. So this is the actual song. I wrote it with a grand staff consisting of one treble clef up top and another one down on the bottom. I only did this just so that you could either look at the melody, which is the top line, coming here when you get to the end of this line, jump down, so here's the end of the line, jump down right to here, and keep reading with the melody. You get to the end of this line, and jump down to here. Notice that if you're just following the top melody, you're skipping the bottom staff entirely. You don't have to read both of them at the same time. And here, there's a double bar line to signify it's the end of the example, the end of the tune. If you'd prefer, you could look at just the bottom, and what you'd see here are some slashes. See these right here. So, what are slashes? This is called slash notation, and basically it's approximating what the rhythm section can play. And it's meant to not give a lot of information because the bassist, the pianist, the guitarist, and the drummer are going to make up their own parts pretty much. Just following that there's a C major chord symbol here, and the slashes are noting that this is in 4/4. To be really clear, we could have written 4/4 at the beginning of each staff, like this. We're going to get more to how to play slash notation. I'll give you some examples of it. It could be as simple as just playing a chord on 1, 2, 3, 4, and I could just hold this out through all of these, keep holding it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then change chords. It's A minor 7. And then I would change chords again on the D minor 7 here, and then the G minor 7. Basically what I'm doing is just playing whole notes, except they're really, in the case of multiple measures, I'm really tying one whole note to another. We haven't really looked at ties very much, but basically if you have a note here, this is a G. If you want to hold it longer than 4 beats, you can tie it to another G right here. And this means that you play that G once, and you hold it for 8 counts. So this would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And that's the end of 2 measures worth of G. So if you play a chord right here, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. There I'm just holding it actually for all 4 measures. This is measure 1. This is measure 2, measure 3, measure 4. What about this measure? What's up with this measure right here? There's nothing because there's no chord that needs to be played here because this is a pickup measure. And it really consists of these notes. Putting this rest at the beginning right here, this is optional. You don't really need it because if you see a measure that's incomplete, just with, this is one beat and then one beat and one beat. That's 3 beats. So it's not all 4 beats. It's incomplete. Then it's a pickup, and you know that, and you can hear that. A pickup measure is part of The Water is Wide. It goes, that's the water is wide, and wide is on this E right here. Okay, let's go back up to the beginning, because while this is the full tune, up at the top here it says chord progression 1. So first chord progression we're going to look at is in the key of C. And this chord progression ends up being the chord progression for The Water is Wide, but I thought it'd be nice just to take a second and look at these chords and hear them as they would sound if you played each one. You can also go back and listen to the MIDI version of this, which is simply just the computer and the piano patch on the computer just playing through this uninterrupted with no lecture or anything. That's a nice idea, just to get a real sound for it in time. I also like it because there's that little green arrow that tracks the music as it's being played. So it's better than my little pencil here. So anyway, let's hear what this progression sounds like to start with. That's it. It doesn't really sound entirely musical when I just plunk them out like that, and I'll give you some examples of how chords end up sounding really, really good and lyrical and have much more of a human, nice musical quality to them. But let's look at a few things theoretically first. I want you to notice that every single one of these chords, the C, the A minor, the D minor, the G7, and the E minor, are all part of the key of C. And we've seen all of these chords in the last topic on modes and why modes matter. So this is a perfect example of why modes matter, because when you combine them together in the key of C, moving from the 1 chord, which is right here, to the 6th chord, which is right here. The A is the 6th, right? Because you have C, D, E, F, G, A. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To the D chord, which is the minor 2. To the 5. To the 3. This makes a beautiful chord progression. Keep in mind, these are not candles. This is lowercase Roman numerals, all right? And they signify minor. And uppercase Roman numerals are the ones we're used to seeing, and they signify major, like the 1 and the 5 here. This is a 5/7 because once we add the extension, it becomes the dominant chord. But the dominant chords have a major triad built in, which is why they're labeled as capital Roman numeral 5. And then at the end we have a 1 chord, and here's another 5 chord. Could label it as a 5/7 and a 1. Now if you're feeling already comfortable in the key of C, what you're going to want to start doing next is seeing if you can actually transpose this into another key. One of the things about jazz is you have to really, to be adept at jazz, you have to be very adept at transposing and playing tunes really ultimately in any key. That can happen with a lot of practice, and it can also happen with a greater understanding of how chords actually work. So if you get to know, for instance, in the key of D, that D is 1, and you got to just really get to know your D major scale to know that the 6th is a B minor chord. You can also write it out on a mode chart in the key of D, so you have all of the modes in the key of D. But anyway, let's get back to C, because I want to basically hear the movement with bass and make it a little bit more lyrical. So I'm going to play with both hands, which means I can't move the pencil, but I'll kind of narrate this as we go. So we start with C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second measure. That's the A minor. Going to D minor here. Here's the E minor, A minor, C, G, C. Now what I did was I put a little bit of a rhythm in there. I kind of improvised a bass line, created kind of a nice rolling pattern on the bottom. And the chords also, it was no longer just, clunk 2 3 4, clunk 2 3 4. That extra rhythm I'm putting in, that would be notated like this. There'd be a dotted quarter. It's 1.5 beats, and then an eighth. A single eighth note, so it gets a flag instead of a beam, tied to a half note. This is a really, really common rhythm in music. In jazz, it's called the Charleston. This is not something exclusive to jazz. If we were to map the beats, I'm going to put 2 in parentheses because nothing is played on there. Sometimes parentheses are reserved for just rests. Other times you can just use them to help delineate there's no new attack on that beat. So 3 is part of the half note. Why don't we play that half note? The reason why is because it's tied coming from the and. So this pattern goes like this. 1 and 1 and. And as I clap, I'm clapping all the downbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1 and 1 and. Here the chord is doing it. 4, 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2. Now let's switch it and make the bass do it. 1 and. Now they're both doing it. You can hear that I'm also putting an extra note on beat 4 in the bass to help propel it a little bit more. If we do that, and we can make this a quarter and then add in another bass note here. Let's listen again to it. That's simply this. And it together. Sorry, one more time. 2, 3, 4. This is the C chord, A minor, D minor, G, E, A, starting to sound like music we know. So good. So that's chord progression 1. And basically, to review, it's 1 to 6, 2 to 5, 3 to 6, 1 to 5 to 1. If we put a melody above that, we get a full piece, a classic song right away. So let's hear The Water is Wide with the chords. Basically, you can track either line. I want you to notice that the chord symbol I wrote for the melody and for the harmony rhythm section part below. So I'm making up the rhythms. I'm probably going to be using some variation on this Charleston rhythm, the one and. So those are two C's, and then they switch to two A's after 4 measures. So here we had 4 measures to there. Here we have 4 measures that start right here and go 1, 2, 3, continue on the next line 4, and then the chord switches. So you can see it's the same structure starting here as it was starting right here. So either way, I'm going to start the melody right here, and I'll spare you my singing. I'll just play it, see if you can follow along. I'm going to play it 2 times. The first time I'm going to be really straight with it, just so you can hear the chords. The second time I'll be a bit more floral with it. Nice thing about The Water is Wide, and really any tune, is that it's up to the performer to make what he wants of it. So you can be very dry, you can be very romantic, you can change it in all sorts of ways depending on tempo and accent and general stylistic, artistic input. Here we go. The Water is Wide. Again, the rest doesn't matter. I'll just start with these notes. That's it. With the exception of accidentally putting in a C right here, that was pretty much just a dry performance through it. So I'm going to play it again and add a bit more kind of rolling pattern to both hands, see how it goes. And there I'm hanging over a little bit at the end, just to really signify an ending. So that was almost like playing the note and then tying it to another C over here. Let's move on. The next one is Begin the Beguine. And this is an old dance band classic. There's kind of a rumba, or a rumba, really a rumba. There, as an aside, there are 2 types of rhythms. The rumba is that kind of and it's not really, doesn't have its roots in Cuban or any Latin music. It's kind of an Americanized dance term, so rumba. It's with the lowercase sound, rumba. But if you take out the H, it becomes Roomba, like R-U-M-B-A. So if you hear someone talking about a Roomba, they are talking about a style that comes out of Latin America. That is a really authentic style, but rumba is referring to that dance style that goes and when you begin the Beguine, it's kind of in a rumba style. Before we get to the actual tune, we're gonna. This is laid out exactly the same way. Let me erase rumbas. Okay, so it's laid out exactly the same way. The tune is down here, and the chord progression for the tune is up here. Now I simplified this chord progression a little bit. So this doesn't exactly match down here, but I'm laying it out so that you see that basically there are only 3 chords in Begin the Beguine. 1, 2, 3. There is an extra chord that sometimes people put in right here. at this point, but we're not going to add it for now. And you actually don't need it to play Begin the Beguine. So this is C major 7. Notice on The Water's Wide I didn't put in C major 7. But on Begin the Beguine I'm putting it in because I think it's an integral part of the tune, more integral than The Water's Wide. So now it's a C major 7. And it's going to D minor 7, which is the 2, and G7, which you know now is the 5. So real quick, we have 1, and then 2, and then 5. What is so significant about jazz and music notation is that we cannot stop just with reading the notes on the staff. Because if we stop there, we're not really getting to jazz. To fully understand jazz, you've got to take music notation a step farther and cover the basics in harmony and in chord progressions. So that's why we're looking at chords, because they really are a full component within music notation when you're addressing jazz. To play classical music, you very often do not need to know these chord symbols to actually perform the piece. Learning them in classical music is certainly a good idea, I think, because it can help you understand the piece better, and that can influence your performance. But if I didn't add the chords, Begin the Beguine just wouldn't sound the same. All we would have is learning the melody to it, but we wouldn't be able to riff on it. We wouldn't be able to improvise around it. And certainly if we were in the rhythm section playing piano or guitar or bass, we wouldn't be able to actually perform it the way it needs to be performed with the chords behind the melody. So again, before we get to Begin the Beguine, let's look at this chord progression and just hear it. So I'll play it down really straight, and then I'm going to take the repeat, and I'll play it again. Right away, I'll put kind of a rumba beat behind it as best I can on the piano. So first of all, really straight. Notice on this, I'm putting half notes in. That's a bit arbitrary. And when we go to actually play this down here, when we're dealing with slashes, we don't need to play the half notes. But I wrote in the half notes because there is kind of a half note pulse at work within the tune. So anyway, again, I'm just repeating from here to here, just the first line. I'll play it at least twice. Here we go. Starting with the C major. 1, 2, here we go. C major, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's D minor, G7. Now I'll play it again. If you're getting kind of lost in the progression, if you close your eyes and you can't yet determine where the 1 is and where the 2 is and where the 5 is, work on it. So practice this and train your ear by really getting more familiar with the progression. And you can count along. Start on 1, go from measure 1 to measure 2, and you know on measure 3, in this example, that's where it switches. And then measure 4, that's where it switches again. So you have the 1 chord for 2 measures. And again, even though we don't have C major 7 written here, once a chord symbol is written, you don't need to write it again until the chord changes. But it doesn't mean there's no chord on measure 2. It means, in fact, you just play the 1 chord again. Let's move on to Begin the Beguine, the tune now. If I just played the top line, it would sound like this. That was just the top line of Begin the Beguine, just the first line here. I want you to notice right away you have quarter note triplets. These are a little different. And they're worth a bit of study. Quarter note triplets sound great. If you hear them with the beat, here's the beat. 1, 2, here I go. Da, da. You hear that? Do, da, da, dee, da, da. 1 and 3 and those are quarter note triplets. It's basically playing 3 notes over the span of 2 beats. There's a pattern to this that you can work on that comes out of Carol of the Bells. And it goes da 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 da. So my left hand is playing the triplet. A 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and my right hand is playing 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. After I play these triplets, I end up on beat 3, and I am holding this note for 3, 4, and this tie takes me to beat 1. Remember, the tie means that I don't actually play this note again. I just hold it out, so I'm not going to re-attack this note here. So what I sometimes do is cross the note out to help me remember. To help students remember, don't play the note again here. Check it out. One more example of the triplet. So here we have 2. Now we're playing on 3. So we play on 2. We play on 3. 3 is the start of our quarter note triplet. We're going to play across 4. It's actually like this. 3 and huge. Not to be confused with an 8th note triplet, which would just be 3 and but this is 3 and because it goes over beat 4 also. This is not basic, okay? So maybe there should be a whole other class just on triplets. They are not basic, especially trying to intellectualize them. But I do think they're easy to hear. And after you play 3 and you come back to 1. Now here's the thing. This whole note is not long enough for what we need for the melody. So again, it's tied all the way to this half note. So once you play that E, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then keep counting 1, 2. Now you're not going to count 5, 6. You're not going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because the measure ends right here. And whenever a new measure starts, you start again with 1. So this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then we rest on 3. If you want, you could take your handout and cross this out. If you're working on Begin the Beguine as a melody, which you should. Remember, you got to practice all of this stuff. You got to work on The Water is Wide. And you're not just trying to memorize the melody and saying, oh yeah, now I know The Water is Wide. You're really trying to work on learning each note. And this takes us all the way back to the beginning of the class too. The whole chorus looking at, for instance, G going to C. Remember, you got to be thinking of that as a leap. You're moving from G up to C. Track the spaces and lines in between. Here you're on a C. Where are you moving? You're moving to an E. Is that a step? Is that a skip? Is that a leap? So anyway, wow, this is getting too crowded. Let's see. I'll play the melody one time through from the beginning to the beginning. It sounds like this. 1, 2, here I go. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Did you hear the change? The chord change? This is the third line. 1, 2, 3. G. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Off. Now I'll play it again as the tune. But see if you can, take this and follow along, count along. You can hear how I'm kind of counting under my breath. If I'm playing the sax, I can't do that, but I'll move some part of my body just to be physical with the beat. Tapping your foot is a great idea. In performance, you want to do it so you're not really distracting, but a little bit of movement is fine. You may look at, say, old videos of Coltrane or someone playing, and you think, well, he's not moving. Maybe I shouldn't move. Try not to compare yourself, okay? Don't compare yourself with anyone, because for every person you find out there who doesn't move in performance, you're going to find someone else who does move, and there are plenty of professional musicians who do all sorts of things while they play. Tapping the foot is a big one. You can find, just like you can find videos of Coltrane not, kind of standing there very, I don't want to say stiff, because he had so much soul running through him. But, he's pretty stationary. You can find other videos of people definitely tapping their foot, kind of moving up and down. As long as it doesn't get in the way of your playing and it helps you keep the beat, then it's okay. There are some movements that are not good because they can influence bad posture and all sorts of things. So, you may want to check with a private teacher, make sure that your movements are not kind of hurting your playing or your potential at all. But if it helps you keep the beat, great. That's if you can't count with your mouth physically. But if you play the piano or the guitar, drums or bass or anything where you don't have to actually play, where your mouth isn't actually occupied, you can count along, and you should, even if it's just for practice. But you can do this in performance too, just under your breath, and no one will know. And it'll really, really help you. I'm sure of it. So, begin the Beguine. Let's try it. I'll just do a version that, again, kind of incorporates the rumba, so you can start hearing maybe a little bit of what the drummer or bass would do. Here we go. Begin the Beguine. 1, 2, here we go. Done. If you're listening very intently, you may have heard me doing something right around here. Hopefully you heard the change to D minor to the 2 chord, where I played the 2 chord, and then I played another chord here. And sometimes what I was doing was playing a G7. Sometimes I was, instead of a G7, was playing a D minor 6. D minor 6 is exactly like D minor 7, except instead of playing D, F, A, C, you're playing D, F, A, B. So that's, there's D minor and the D minor 6. You hear that top note? It's very similar to D minor going to G7, which would be this. D minor, that's D minor 7 going to G7. So D minor. Then I went back and forth. D to G, D to G. I can do that because you have a lot of variants and variational possibilities between all of these chords. They're all related so closely that sometimes it sounds very, very nice to just stick in a little passing chord like the 6, and I was just kind of doing that intuitively here. The same thing on the D minor 7. There's, on this line, look, that's the only chord we have printed, but we could go right? And you hear that? I'm just sort of improvising in that as extra filler. That's it for topic 9. So anyway, take some time. Make sure you're really working on The Waters Wide, Begin the Beguine. You could also venture into other jazz pieces, certainly, and start taking a look. You may want to start off, to keep things simple, with ones that are in the key of C. But if you feel extra ambitious, you could try something else too in a different key. So study hard.